Now, while you can draw all of your line work directly in LightBurn, you're most likely going to want to bring in a file from AutoCAD or Illustrator or even from Revit. To load in an AutoCAD file to LightBurn, it needs to be saved as what's called a DXF. A DXF is an exchangeable file type that allows you to open CAD files in other vector-based software like Photoshop, Illustrator, and in this case, LightBurn. And it's a very, very simple and easy process. So here in AutoCAD, I have a file that has already been prepped and ready to head to the laser. So all of my line work has been double checked. All of my layers are the different colors that I want associated with cutting and printing. And my drawing has also been scaled. So we can see here in this elevation that this right here, the width of this is just 9 1/16 of an inch. So it's no longer this gigantic 18-foot long line of our building. To save this as a DXF, I can just click on either the Save As icon up here or the little red A, and then do Save As. And when my window prompt comes up, I'm just going to save my file type as a DXF. I usually backdate this to a 2000 purely because the previous laser I used always required that I backdate it, so now I just always backdate it that way too. So I'm just going to save it as a DXF file. I know too that it is a DXF because up here it's now reading it as a DXF file that is open. And then what I'm going to do is in LightBurn, I'm going to go File, Import, or I can use Control-I. And then on my desktop, it's only going to look for supported files. So it's not even going to locate any DWG files that I have. But we can see here that it does support a DXF. So I'm just going to click on my file, laser load, and open it. And it brings it in already with not only everything to size, but with all of my line work in the correct layers. And it even is going to import in any layer settings that I might have had related to previous projects. So the last file that I had done, I did my blue lines with a power of 5 and a speed of 500 millimeters per second. So it brought that same line work in. I always find it helpful here in LightBurn too to draw a box that is just the size of my material piece to make sure that all of my pieces are going to fit. So I'm just going to come here to my rectangle tool and just make some weird generic rectangle. And then up here, I'm just going to type in my width and my height. So my width, in this case, I'll just say I have a piece of chipboard that's 3 foot by 2 foot. And then I can kind of move this into place and make sure that all of my pieces are going to fit. Or this could even be where I start to kind of locate my pieces like a Jenga board of sorts and move them into place around the board. One thing here with this rectangle is the layer that I have it in currently, I also have set with an output turned off. So that means I could keep this black line here on LightBurn and it's not going to print out, but it can just help me make sure that I have my piece located and everything. It's not going to really matter too in LightBurn where you have your design placed necessarily, because we're always going to run our job based on job origin. My little cursor thing, it gets weird when it gets to the side, I don't know why, but I'm always going to run a piece based off job origin. You can kind of think of this little red square or rectangle as the upper corner of the machine, but then this green square here is going to be the location of our laser when it starts. Now, it would be totally okay for me to run my laser or run my job with all of my parts or pieces this far over from the corner of my actual piece of material. But one thing you want to try to keep in mind is to always put everything as kind of condensed as possible onto your piece. So that this way you're not wasting a lot of space. So for instance, if I just decided to cut everything, just here in the middle, that could run and that could be all fine and dandy, but then I'm just going to kind of have a lot of wasted material that I can't really use for other projects. Another thing too, when it comes to cutting or preparing your work with a laser, that's a little bit different than hand cutting, is whenever we would cut things by hand, I'd always want to encourage to, use that edge of your material to kind of be that nice cut edge as well. So kind of building everything out from that side. With the laser, we usually want to at least have it just a little bit off from that side. Since the laser is going to be making us that fresh edge, I usually would want to, and I can even use the arrow keys to kind of nudge it as close as possible to the edge. But to try to not use our material edge, but instead just get as close as possible and let the laser create those fresh cut edges.